The Battle of Cook's Mills was the last engagement between U.S. and British armies in the Niagara, and the penultimate engagement on Canadian soil during the War of 1812. Background: General Gordon Drummond had lifted the siege of Fort Erie on 21 September 1814, and withdrew to a strong defensive position at Fort Chippewa on the north bank of Chippewa Creek. An American division under Major General George Izard had marched overland from Plattsburgh, New York to reinforce the Americans at Fort Erie. Being the senior Major General, Izard took command of the combined force. The more aggressive Brown wished to attack Drummond immediately, with the combined force numbering 6,300. Izard chose not to risk the casualties of attacking a strong defensive position. Angered at Izard's lack of action, Brown left with his division and marched to Sackett's Harbor, New York, where a British attack was feared. Izard finally marched north to Chippewa Creek. The creek was unfordable, and the bridge had been destroyed. During the 16th of October, his artillery exchanged fire with the British, without effect. Battle. Attempting to deprive the British of their chief source of flour, Izard sent a brigade of about 1,200 men, consisting of the 5th, 14th, 15th and 16th U.S. infantry with some detachments of riflemen and U.S. dragoons under Brigadier General Daniel Bissell, to take Cook's Mills on Lyons Creek in Crowland Township. In response, Drummond dispatched about 750 men under Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Myers to reconnoiter the American force. On the morning of the 19th of October, Myers came into contact with the American picket just east of the mills. A half-hour fight ensued, but the Americans could not be lured from the cover of the woods. Observing American soldiers moving through the trees on his right, Myers feared his force was being outmaneuvered. He ordered a retreat, and the Americans promptly pursued his column nearly to their camp at the Lyons Creek settlement. Returning to Cook's Mills, the Americans destroyed all the grain and flour found in the mill, and the next day they withdrew to their camp at Black Creek. Aftermath. The battle showed the effects of Izard's well-trained troops. Despite this minor victory, it became apparent that Drummond was not going to move from his defences. Izard also heard that British ships dominated Lake Ontario, and any American advance risked being cut off by a landing in its rear. He withdrew to Fort Erie. The British loss of 200 bushels of wheat was offset when several American provision boats crossed the Niagara unaware of Izard's retreat and fell into British hands. Izard later destroyed Fort Erie and returned to the U.S. side of the river. Drummond moved to the remains of the fort but chose not to rebuild it, and the fighting along the Niagara frontier came to an end. The site of the battle was designated a National Historic Site of Canada in 1921. 8 active regular battalions of the United States Army perpetuate the lineages of a number of American infantry regiments that took part in the battle.